Bright Tuty. Every student matters.
Now, the development models, and there are three main models of development: liberal democratic model, the communist model, the Indian mixed economy model. Let's talk about the liberal democratic model. Liberal democracy emphasizes the separation of powers, which is an independent judiciary and a system of checks and balances between branches of government. This we have also done in our junior classes. Like if we talk about the horizontal and the vertical power distribution, when we talk about the horizontal one, at that time we divided in three parts. Like what are these three parts are? Legislative, executive, and the judiciary, and they just keep on checking each other, which is called the checks and balances. And where the democracy, where the it is possible in the democracy only, people can raise the question, judiciary can check the executives and the legislative, and legislative and judiciary executive can work out on the things which judiciary has done. So each one of them, each of the branches are interconnected, and liberal democracies are likely to emphasizes the importance of the state being wretched and a state that follows the principle of rule of law. Then the communist model, it is a political and economic ideology that positions itself in opposition to liberal democracy and a capitalism, advocating instead for a class system in which the means of production are owned communally and private property and is non-existent or severely curtailed. Mixed economy model, which India is following. In a mixed economy, private and public sectors go side by side, and the government directs economy activity in some socially important areas of the economy, the rest being left to the price mechanism to operate. Before independence, Indian economy was laissez-faire economy. Now, mixed economy also have some sectors: private sector, public sector combined, the planned economy, balanced regional development, and dual system of price. Now, social, environmental, and economic cost of development. What is this? Social cost in a neoclassical economics is the sum of the private costs resulting from a transaction and the cost imposed on the consumer as a consequence of being exposed to the transaction for which they are not compensated and or charged. In other words, it is the sum of private and external cost. This might be applied to any number of economic problems. For example, social cost of carbon has been explored to better understand the cost of carbon emissions for proposed economic solution as a carbon tax. The ecological and environmental cost of development. The present model of the ecological and the environmental cost of development. Ecological cost of development is the present model of development. It is dependent upon increasing use of energy and is major cause. For environmental degradation, consumption of fossil fuels to the energy requirement is also a major cause of pollution as well as depletion of natural resources. The economic cost, that is the inequality of income. There are wide varieties of economic inequality, most notably measured using the distribution of income, the amount of money people are paid, and the distribution of wealth also. The amount of wealth people own. And besides the economic inequality between countries or states, there are important types of economic inequalities between different groups of people. Now, requests of an ideal model of development. In general, its creation was broken into a series of steps: describe and agree upon the ideal future state, determine the stakeholders required to reach the ideal state, and connect the stakeholders and describe the relationship between each. Now, the peace and the development. There is a close link between both of them, like peace and development. Peace promotes development because when people are in a peaceful state of mind, they can think better, they can take better results, they can take better decisions. Diversion of states energy and resources, and five principles of peaceful coexistence. ASEAN's achievements own to peace. European Union promoted peace and prosperity in Europe. All these steps taken by the human beings are on the path of or on the direction of development. Okay? Because this is all mindset. When you have the sense of belongingness to this earth, and when you have sense of adjustment in your mind, at that time you can diverse everything towards the development. And if you have a very small point of, like, a pin size conflict in your mind, you will not adjust yourself, and then we cannot promote development. Peace is a key of component of sustainable development, and a healthy business environment is important for development. And in conflict-ridden communities, business operations are disrupted due to the unreliable social services and the prevalence of social problems such as poverty, hunger, and inequality. Now, the diversion of states' energy and resources, like the state and state power, are hyper complex and changeable phenomena, and no single theory or theoretical perspective can fully capture and explain the structural and strategic dynamic. Moreover, despite recurrent tendency to reify them as standing outside and above society. Now, the diversion of states' energy and resources, the state and political system belong to a broader set of social relations. We cannot adequately describe or explain the state apparatus, state projects, and state power without referring to the differential articulation with this ensemble. There are five principles of peaceful coexistence, the great idea of five principles of peaceful coexistence. And it was jointly proposed by China, India, and Myanmar, and back in 1950s has been upheld by China ever since. And they include mutual respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity, mutual and non-aggression, non-interference in each other's internal affairs, equality and mutual benefit, and peaceful coexistence. ASEAN's achievements and ode to peace in this, I say that ASEAN is a mature regional organization with many notable achievements but with stiff challenges ahead. And for 52 years, and it has provided peace and enhanced security in Southeast Asia, and it has fostered economic development and has contributed to social progress for its people. But ASEAN now confronts numerous external and internal headwinds and the competition of major powers in the Indo Pacific region, implication of the US China trade war for ASEAN, and potential collective ASEAN humanitarian assistance in Rakhine State, Myanmar. Now, the European Union promoted peace and prosperity in Europe. Europeans credit European Union with promoting peace and prosperity, but say Brussels is out of touch with its citizens. Many worried about long-term economic forecast impact of immigration. And these decades following the devastation and the suffering of the World War II, founders of what would become the European Union sought to build a new Europe, an ever closer union tied together through economic and political integration, as well as a shared of value set of values. And despite the turmoil associated with the events such as European debt crisis, a massive influx of refugees, Brexit, and Europeans continue to believe the European Union stands for noble goals. That is revise the chapter. Who said development means change plus growth? Paul Mengejer. And one dimension of development is political development. Goal of development is fulfillment of minimum need. And what the definition of development is, it means welfare of all and improvement in the standard of life. And who is associated with Narmada Bachao Andolan, Medha Patekar. And development model is needed for India is Gandhian model. And UNDP stands for United Nations Development Program. Two definitions of development, according to Coleman Geiger, development means change plus growth, and Wedner defines it as a process of growth in the direction of modernity, and particularly in the direction of nation building and socio-economic progress. And what is development? Again, the same question, and mention the major objectives which are identified with the development. Like development could only be attained by modernization, and it means economic growth or economic development. It emphasizes on harmony, stable and orderly changes, and quantitative change and qualitative change. And this is a development is not unilinear. What does statement mean? It means it implies to a process of organic change in the nature of political institution. Development in general means the process of cumulative change and growth. So, political development in particular refers to the process of change and growth in political spheres. The scholars came to hold the view that by industrialization, urbanization, secularization, and democratization, these countries could catch up with the Western countries, and they could also develop democratic structures and industrial complex. They could also develop democratic structures and industrial complexes. So the idea developed that the developing countries have to pass through certain stages to attain political development, and emphasizes in this way came to be led on the unilinear process, which is straight and unobstructed. It means development takes place in one single direction, and that also in a particular accepted order of one stage being followed by another. Identity, legitimacy, penetration, participation, distribution, and integration. That's all for this chapter. Hope peace and development is clear to everyone. Use this video as a support material with reference to your book.